Good morning, sunshines, or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are and when you watch this. Also, happy Eclipse Day as we're moving into the energies throughout tonight and into tomorrow, at least where I am on the eastern seaboard. So this is fascinating because we're also moving into having seven planets in retrograde. I don't know about you guys, but there's been a lot of dream activity. I personally have been even sleeping more because so much is processing during dream time. Curious if you guys are experiencing something similar. There's some themes that have been surfacing, and I'm also going to dive into the cards and just ask whatever's going to be the most beneficial for you because we're obviously going through a very huge transformative formative time right now. I know that me saying that is sort of becoming a cliche because every day, every week is really big shifts. But I also feel like it's appropriate because the more that we do, the more is shifting. And so that momentum is really building. But some of the themes that have been coming through have been deeply connected to sort of this life review energy, these reviews up into this time. And that actually makes a lot of sense with speaking about that message I got from my higher self moving into phase three. So for me, this, when I look at it, when I see it, it feels exceedingly foundational. And what I mean by that is we are moving homes. We're moving more deeply into the new energy, into the new earth grid, if you will, if that helps you have a place to land that feels aligned for you, and allowing what was to really dissolve and collapse in its old form so that the new can be born and whatever is aligned with us can be born, reborn, integrated, reconnected. Making space for that to land in our physical world seems like a very big theme. And obviously, with this review, there is a very deep review around relationships. So you may find that you're looking at your past relationships, or again, having dreams about past relationships. And this is sort of helping us to process out those past patterns, or it's also a way to resolve things with others that you may or may not be able to have physical world communication with. But those that are ready can continue to resolve these energies and move forward according to your soul's plan. At least that's how I'm seeing it. This feels, maybe that's part of it. This feels pretty significant for me because I'm preparing to move and travel. I have multiple things sort of going on. And all of these things that are occurring in the astrological world are really hitting my personal natal chart. So that is significant, but also I'm noticing that this feels really relative to the momentum that we're building into for the new. So, oh, and I also did want to tell you really quick, I did open registration for this sacred feminine restoration on Earth. And that has quite a bit coming through. When I put that on my schedule. I did not realize that it's on 329. Well, I did realize it was on 329. I did not realize that that was the next eclipse. So that feels significant as well. If you would like to join me, you're welcome to. I'm sure I'll speak more about it and I'll put it over in the post tab at some point. I'll drop the information in the pinned comment. But obviously, I guess touching in on it, this feels significant that I was guided to open it today publicly, and it's really holding through this next few weeks. There's major transitions that really feel to be in occurrence in the collective. Obviously, especially between the masculine and feminine. Those of you who have been here with me the last few weeks, many of the feminines really have been feeling called to release, let go of the past iteration of whatever she's been doing and really move into her next phases, which these things go hand in hand. And so the similar things are happening for the masculines in their own ways. And I just picked up the Priestess of Light, so let's see what wants to come through. Okay, so we have grateful optimism, joyous view of the future, opening heart, deep connection, water, blessings. This feels significant in that I know many of you have been working very deeply on the shadow work over these years. And it was a big part of what we were doing collectively. And this feels like part of what is transforming is that as many of the feminines have tempered, are holding themselves and stabilizing themselves within the shadows. And what I mean by that is with whatever is occurring around them, even the uncomfortable, collectively, the feminines have been able to stabilize pretty significantly within all of that sort of storm, really being sort of better at being in the eye of the storm, being in this world, but not of it. And so many of the feminines really are ready to start embodying more deeply in the physical world the representation of her joy. And this is happening regardless of who is present or who isn't, because that is what is being asked right now. Because as things are aligned and as they are meant to sync up, you know that that will happen in divine timing. But many of the feminines are really preparing to move into this. Grateful optimism, really opening her heart, dropping into her joy, and really creating and building her new earth foundation in a very, very physical manner. And this is not to say that you have not been doing that, my dear feminines, because I know many of you have, but this really feels like a deepening and a building of the momentum into that. And if you have not quite reached this phase yet, it's all okay. Keep supporting yourself exactly where you are. Keep going as you're guided and know that you will reach this place in your divine and perfect timing. Okay. So I want to touch back in on this because it was the themes that came up in that sacred feminine restoration. And I want to share a bit for you all here to work with in your own right in whatever way you feel guided if it's aligned. Part of what we're going to do is actually touch in on some of those shadows in a way to harmonize with them, so to speak, in the sense of being able to self-master within those types of patterns. So we're living on this planet, right? And as much as we've mastered and as much as we're embodying, we're still going to be presented or experience situations where we may be presented with fear or guilt or shame or grief or attachment, whatever have you, right? Illusion, lies. These types of situation can come up on this planet during this transition. There is a high likelihood that you will experience one or more of these things. Now, experiencing these does not mean that you've done something wrong or have gone backwards. It's part of being a human here on this planet. But what is happening is we are going into our deepening of our capacity to be able to remain stable within ourselves, in our physical body, wherever we are. Obviously, as long as we're not actually in a legitimate physical danger, and being able to maintain our energies in appropriate ways. Okay. So obviously having an open heart and being in your joy internally, you can always hold these energies for yourself no matter what is happening around you. And in fact, that's something I would encourage each of you to strengthen into more deeply, no matter what is occurring. Okay. And knowing that it's okay for you to hold those energies within yourself. And in fact, it's a big part of your embodiment of the sacred feminine energies and stabilizing those. So as we sort of touch in with where we are in those shadows, in those fears or worries or anxieties or whatever have you, it's not about avoiding those. We know this. It's about being able to look at those, hold yourself through them, process them, honor them, and also move through them into your next steps and stages. So also really working with the antidotes or the remedies for those. How are we rewriting those broader patterns? Again, it's not about eliminating the emotions or the experiences. It's about broadening and strengthening our capacity to navigate and sustain our true essence and energies in the face of those types of energies and situations. Okay. So we're going to be working with that. I feel probably many of you are already working with those energies on your own. But if you would like to deepen into that, that is some of what we will be working with here over the next few weeks and in that sacred feminine restoration. I also want to acknowledge really quickly if there are any masculines that feel guided to join, you are absolutely welcome, as we all hold the feminine essences in our own ways. And overall, we all deserve to be supported by the sacred divine feminine essences, as well as the sacred divine masculine essences in kind. And that is a big part of what the collectives are in process of restoring as we work with that within our own internal energies. And then also, obviously, sharing that out into our connections and into the world. So, a big part of the last phase was where many of the feminines were actually quite hermited and quite to herself. And that was a very important part of her restoration as well. This is where she learned to retrain her nervous system, where she learned to embody more deeply her true standards, to love herself, to embrace all of who she is, to work with her own internal union energies, learning how to prioritize herself and her, what it is that she's wanting to create and build for herself. And I feel this is important because in this next phase, that's where the masculines will be going through a deepening of that for themselves, where they're learning to commit to themselves in new and true and deeper ways, and what is actually true for them as the feminines are deepening into what is true for them as well. And again, I'm really, really like this is standing out to me so deeply in this next phase where the feminines are in that deeper states of embodiment in the physical world. So where she's held herself and been more pulled back with the physical world, strengthening herself, preparing her foundation. Now many are going to, if they're not already, being called out more present in the physical world. And so that is why I believe the more I'm sitting with it, why we are being guided to dive into touching in with those shadows as a way to really show ourselves how far we've come, how strong we are, how much we're actually holding ourselves and able to stay present within the discomforts without shutting down, without running, and also without breaching our own boundaries. We're not going into the self-betrayal anymore. And when there was someone who asked this question a few days ago around, she had stated she had sort of really pulled herself back from a lot of old relationship patterns and then found herself being guided to touch back in with those people. And when she did, she was finding that some of the old patterns were still there. But really, this doesn't mean she was wrong or off kilter or receiving the wrong information about touching back in. When we are put in these types of situations, it gives us the opportunity to embody more deeply into the version of who we are now, right? We get to deepen our standards, and then we still get to decide how we're going to participate within that. Where at one point you might have had to shut down hard and run away or freeze off an energy with a person to protect yourself, you may find now that that level of harshness is actually not necessary because you are embodying your boundaries and your standards so much more deeply for yourself. You may find that you might touch into those energies, find they're still present, and sort of just pretty easily and effortlessly sort of release yourself from that participation and sort of just move forward. There's not those old tug of war energies present like there were in the past. And so we're just allowing ourselves to go through these experiences and continue to center back to the self, continue to maintain our truth, embody into our joy, right? And continue to follow our guidance as it's called for. So having these types of experiences or things present to us is all okay. In fact, again, it's an opportunity to strengthen into who you are now. And remember, you do not have to do anything you don't want to do. You don't have to participate in anything that does not feel aligned for you. And you can just simply release any attachment or judgment or expectation around how others should or shouldn't behave, allow them to be who they are, and you simply move into your lane being who you are, again, deciding what you're going to participate with or not. All right. Okay. Let's see. I feel like there's something else that might want to come through. I want to just ask, like, what's some messages of support over this next like week or two as we're going through this eclipse season and all of these retrogrades? Confidence in your magic. So for me, this is like really about wielding your sword of truth for yourself. Really, if you find yourself in any states of uncertainty or confusion, give yourself some space. You don't have to know the answer in that exact moment. You can step back and then just ask for the truth. Ask for any confusion, illusion, or um past bypassing to be cleared away so that you can gain the clarity that's necessary for you to then make your next steps forward. If you're in an energy of uncertainty, give yourself the space and grace to gain clarity, wielding your truth for yourself, right? Really being willing to look at the truth. How are you participating? Where are you responsible? And then handling your part of whatever the situation is and allowing the energies to work for you in this situation. Because this is a lot of what eclipses will bring to the surface in retrogrades, right? Those pockets of energy where we are ready to gain clarity, where we are ready to retrieve those parts of our essences and our subconscious so that we can move more fully forward in our true full life force and full embodiment. So it does feel that really deepening into your truth and holding steady until your truth is clarified for you is going to be something that will be beneficial for you over these next few weeks. Of course, this is always beneficial, but in particularly if you have those sort of cloudy, uncertain times, give yourself some space with it. Okay. I feel guided to get a few traditional tarot just to see where we're at. So, okay, one fell first, placed face down, and then the King of Wands came up. And what fell on the table was the Ten of Wands face down. What this feels like to me, interestingly, is that there is a lot of unseen movement that is happening. The fact that this fell first, I do sense that there is a lot of movement happening where many of us, and what's coming through is actually many feminines and masculines are moving away from those old patterns. There is a lot of packing up and moving and preparing to move into the new. It really feels like these wands feel like the path forward is being illuminated. And even his wand feels similar to the swords. I know traditionally the swords in the tarot um are are that sword of truth, but this wand feels very akin to that for me. It feels about that enlightenment, about that capacity to see the truth more clearly once and for all. So the more I'm sitting with this energy, the more I really feel these next few weeks may bring a lot up, but there is going to be a lot of truth being set free, a lot of truth coming forward over these next few weeks. And I do feel the way that this King of Wands stepped forward, for me, this feels that the masculines are going to be freeing themselves from quite a bit of the webs or codependence. That is just what's coming through, sort of honestly, unexpectedly. I mean, it makes sense, but let's get a little bit more with this. I just feel like this word that's wanting to come through is illumination. And then the magician came. So I do feel the masculines in their own right are going to be, to me, this feels like that energy and essence of truth and divine intervention um, that many of you have experienced with your dark night of the soul. And it feels like what this feels like to me is like the path being paved. There's something big opening up. And I'm looking at this and feeling it in a very collective way. The beauty of it is I actually feel the feminines still in their own lane, focusing on themselves, minding their own business, standing in the sword of truth. And sort of this sword of truth feels like it's the exact energy that is in between the masculine and feminine collectives right now. It feels like many of the feminines have just reached this point where she's like, it doesn't really matter to me. I just want the truth. I just want to be happy. I want to be myself. I want to move forward and I'm ready to do this. And so just completely standing in her truth in a very unattached way, just asking for whatever is truly for her and sort of planting her sort of truth in the foundation. To me, it feels like this is that signal for the masculine collectives to also move more deeply into whatever is true for them. And what I'm loving about these energies is that I can feel where the feminines, at least most of you here with me, are really in a state of non-attachment in just holding whatever is best and highest for all. And therefore, what I'm sort of witnessing in the energetics right now is this is the masculines are moving into a free pillar of light of their own to strengthen their connection to the source and earth in their own right and in their own way. And it actually feels quite appropriate that the feminine would not be present within that so that he can move into his own strength in his own new and deeper ways. Now, for those of you that are in physical world connection and in relationship, you may find that you each sort of are navigating within your own pillar, which is a big part of sacred union energies anyway. So, however, this is presenting for you, it's an opportunity for everyone to deepen into their own lane, to deepen into their pillar of light and inner union, because regardless of the status of our connection, relationship, partnership, or sacred union, this is the one thing that we all hold in common no matter what. each one of us as an individual sovereign being is here to step more fully into our true capacity of all of who we are in our internal union states, even while holding, maintaining, and sustaining a sacred union energy. And so this dance is quite common because we are all always growing. And so we will reach these points in our processes, even within unions, even within physical unions, where you each sort of take what you've been learning from one another and strengthen that in your own lane. I feel like this is an important thing to deepen our consciousness into because in the old way we would sort of get into a relationship or get into a lane and then want to maintain it in that exact energy, but it's actually not possible because you're all always growing, and so the container of your friendship, your connection, your relationship, your union is going to keep evolving. It's sort of like sticking two plants in a pot and then never repotting them. They're going to get pot bound, right? It's really important that we always allow ourselves to up level, to upgrade, to strengthen into the pillar of who we are now and embody more deeply into that. This, to me, I think is one of the most important parts of our true ascension embodiment process is that we're not getting too attached to anything being a certain way that we start to stifle our own growth. Okay. And so we can be in friendships, we can be in partnerships, we can be in sacred union. And one of the main ways that we're going to be able to sustain that is by having the awareness and the capacity to give one another as much space as necessary to grow and transform and expand to our next levels, right? This doesn't mean we didn't do it right. It doesn't mean we did something wrong. It means that we are honoring the energies that are present and we are allowing ourselves to grow to our next levels. And this is such an important part of the interdependent sovereign unity consciousness energies. All right, my loves, you know what? I'm going to leave it there. I'm really excited for these energies. I will put all my information in the pin comment. I would love to hear from you. I don't know about you, the build up to this eclipse was quite intense for me, but really seems to be settling out and opening up in a new way. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we move through, open up, and gain clarity on over these next few weeks. All right, I'm sending you so much love. I hope that you found this helpful, and I hope that you have a beautiful rest of your day. Take care. Much love. Bye.